Welcome to Resilience This Week. I am really excited to bring on a couple of special guests. You've seen them in some of my lives before. These are amazing people and good friends as well. Charles and Elaine Sanger, welcome. Glad you're here.
Hi, how are you?
They are from the Pilotage Group, which includes Pilotage Publishing, a publishing company, and Publish Your Message, which helps authors to publish their message. So I'm just going to let you tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Yeah, for years, we've really had a burning desire to impact the world. And as we became more and more successful, people came to us and said to us, well, how did you do that? And so about 5 years ago, Charles and I created Your Message Central, which is where we help people get their message out. And we believe that publishing a book is one of the best ways to really clarify your content. And that's a springboard for being able to impact the world, for being able to do some public speaking, for counseling, for writing blogs and doing so many things. So what we do is we take aspiring authors and help them on that road to become an accomplished author.
I love that.
We're married, by the way.
Yes. Should have clarified.
Charles is our content and our brain trust behind everything that we do. He has his doctorate degree in intercultural studies, so he's really very familiar with understanding audiences and how the culture affects them. He also is a #1 best-selling author, an excellent teacher, and has vast experience in project management.
Yeah.
So that helps our authors through. Now, I'm the marketing, sales, creative type gal.
Yeah, you've got an extensive marketing background, don't
yes,
you?
I do. And I spent many years in New York City as a designer. And I've run everything from 501c3s and asking people for very small $25 donations on up to doing massive projects with big corporations and raising $5 million and plus in certain contracts. So
awesome.
I have that's who we are. We're a married couple. We're very much into this and wanting to help people.
I love that. And Your Message Central and Publish Your Message is especially important. That's the reason why I brought you on, to talk about getting the message out there. And I guess the first question is, especially some of the people who are listening to this, why would someone even want to write a book about the tough stuff in their lives? Because the people who watch Real Life Resilience and Resilience This Week, they've had a lot of tough stuff in their lives. And a lot of times we're encouraging them to write about that. But why would somebody want to write a book about the tough stuff in their lives? Let's dig into that a little bit.
Writing a book helps you clarify your thinking. It helps you can talk about it with a counselor. That's good. You need to do that. Mm-hmm. But when you're that's a short time. That's a half hour, an hour session at the most. But writing a book is a long term. You're putting it together in sequence. It's helping you to clarify your thinking. It's helping you to, it's giving context to the problem. Mm. It's helping you need to be thinking about not just your feelings, but what caused that? Where did it come from? And as you're writing a book, you have the time to develop those kind of thoughts. We don't have time to do that in speaking or just thinking about it. Writing a book gets it there, gets it out before us, and we keep thinking about it. And it helps connect you with your heart and your head. We use a process in our writing that we teach called freestyle writing, where you're pushing writing so fast that you've moved beyond your physical writing to getting to those deep issues in your head that are buried there that we don't think about. We're trying to push besides just the surface thinking into those deep things. Mm-hmm. And the other thing I'm just reading, I've been reading about it for a while, but there's a lot of studies being done now that it can be beneficial to our health. Writing can help our immune system. It can help reduce stress and some of those kind of issues. So there's an advantage to writing your book about this. Your book gives you that long-term focus on it, whether it's journaling or a memoir or however you choose to put it together. It gives you that long-term focus and gives you clarity and context for what you're going through.
I love that word context, because a lot of times when we're in the tough stuff, we're just in the tough stuff, and you kind of have blinders on about what else is going on or what's causing it or how you can get out of that, and you just go through it. You kind of slog through your life day by day. But when you're writing a book about that, then you have context. You can put it into, okay, here's the relationships dynamics, that were involved, or here's, how I felt at the time. And you're looking back at that with older and wiser eyes, right? And you can process. In fact, that's why I'm writing a book, and you guys are helping me with that. And my book is not just, I don't know, not just self-centered, here's who I am or here's what I'm all about. It's really going to be a primer about resilience, using my life as a backdrop for it, right? And that's why I want to write my book, to give others a shortcut through some of the really crappy stuff that I went through. And it's just incredibly valuable.
That's great. As we've talked about this, I've seen two perspectives. One is writing after the fact. And then while you were talking, you mentioned writing during the fact of while this is going on.
Yeah.
If you're writing while it's going on, that's an indication that you have hope. It's not always going to be like this.
Yeah. Yes.
So that gives you hope.
Mm-hmm.
And writing after the fact helps you go back and clarify and give you context for what you went through and that kind of stuff.
Right.
So, two different perspectives there. If you're writing while you're going through it, that's a source of hope.
Yeah.
It's going to get better.
So true. I absolutely love that. Now, there are lots of people who are reticent to share their stories. They're afraid, oh my gosh, all that junk I went through, I don't want to write an expose or, things like that, but they just are like, just keep it internal. Do you have people who are authors who've been like that?
We have some that have been through that and finally come around. It took them years to come around to write their book. But most of the ones that are like that aren't in our program. We know of a lot of them that are looking at it. They're thinking they should do it, but they're not doing it. And because they're not, that's not helping them get better. That just keeps them stuck in the old thing. They're afraid to put that in. They're afraid to look at it. They're afraid to deal with that reality.
Yeah.
And, whether we're the tough times, you think about an alcoholic, they go through their 12-step thing. And the whole thing behind that kind of stuff is you're looking at it, you're admitting this happened, you're saying this is the reality, you're not trying to surface over it, and you're looking at how to deal with it and how to move on and make things better.
I absolutely love that. There's a lot of shame involved in some of the things that our past holds. And you know what? If people only knew, writing about those tough things, even if you feel like you're at fault or partially at fault, or you had a part to play in that, writing it out, getting it out, first of all, you might find that it wasn't your fault. In fact, things that happen as kids always absorb that blame, especially, you've heard about kids blaming themselves for parents' divorce and things like that. Kids take on everything. Their world centers around them. So no matter what bad happens, they take it into themselves, and you carry that into adulthood. So you might, by going back, find that, hey, that wasn't my fault, and clarify that. But even if you did have, we're humans, we all have faults. Even if you do have a part to play in that, you can, again, give yourself some compassion for what happened and move on from there. That's what I love about that.
And not our authors, but I know a lot of authors that have written about these kind of things. And one of the things that they find is that they gather a lot of people that have gone through similar problems, and they may see some that haven't been quite as bad. They may see some that were a lot worse than them, but they gather this group of followers around them, and it becomes a support group for each other. They're helping support and helping guide those that are going through it, and they're a few steps ahead. There's one kind of writer, we call it as a oh, I forget the word now. I know the two advanced, but they're novice. They're going through the process and they're writing about going through the process. So you don't have to be an expert
Right.
before you can start writing about it. You're starting writing about it as you go through the process, and that's okay because that's the struggler. That's the name of that kind of a writer. They're a struggler, and that's a valid way to write because they're going through it and saying the struggles they had and what they're facing as they go through these problems.
Right. Right.
I think one other thing to add in that is that in the world today, we really don't want to just gloss over and be sort of fake about who we are. People long to know, and people that are transparent, and that are bold enough and courageous enough to know that, yeah, we all have tough stuff in our lives.
Mm-hmm.
And people relate to others who have gone through those challenges and those trials. And at that point, when you're bold enough and courageous enough to get that out there, you attract more people than you can help. When you hide what your purpose is, those struggles that you went through, when you've come through them, only then can you help people. But if you hide that, you really aren't exposing yourself to your audience. Your audience are the people that you're going to help with your book.
Right. Who are going through the same thing you've gone through or just about to go through the same thing that you've gone through.
There are
Oh, go ahead.
there are support. Without them, then we're just talking to people who are giving us theory.
Right.
I'd rather be working with someone who has experience and has gone through those trials and those struggles than somebody who just book knowledge,
Right.
Studied about it, okay? And they don't get it. They don't get what I might be going through.
Absolutely. Now, there are still some people who are worried about, like, okay, so they're ready to write. They're like, yes, I want to get it out of my head and help other people, but I'm worried about, what the people who were involved in that might see or read, or maybe they will get angry, or maybe their family won't approve of it, or, what can people do to get over some of that worry as they're writing their book?
Well, that's a good point. And when you're writing the personal stories and the memoirs and those kind of things, those are some of the books that are most open to libel and lawsuits and that kind of stuff, because you're not only sharing about yourself, but you're talking about other people involved. Mm-hmm. So the first way to try to deal with it is to get their permission to talk about it.
Yep.
And that's the first. If you can't do that, we can go through and change names.
Right.
Okay. And with that, it's not just the name change, because you have to be careful. You've got to change the person's, that characters, you got to change enough about that character that they can't be recognized by people that know you.
Right.
So that's another way of dealing with it. Another way to deal with it is to not really tell your story specifically, but write a story, a fiction story that's based around what happened.
Yeah.
A lot of fiction writers are, a lot of them, and I've read a lot of the great fiction writers that are talking about how and why they write. They're the protagonist in their story. Mm. So even though this may be, Darth Vader or somebody, even in the science fiction stuff, that protagonist, whoever it is that's the writer telling their story, because your heart, your soul, your emotions is going to come through the story. Oh, and you may be freer to let it through if you're doing it as a fiction-based story as opposed to a nonfiction kind of memoir thing.
I love that. And I would say, just get it out of your head first and then worry about changing it up and things like that, right? Just because you want to get all the good stuff, all the good details, all that rich experience out first before you go into fictionalizing it or changing names and stuff, right?
And that's a very good idea. We call it our rough draft. That's the first draft. We have a rule with rough draft. It's for your eyes only. Your spouse, your counselor, nobody else sees it but you. Mm-hmm. So you write in there the truth. Don't try to change names while you're doing that rough draft. You're just going to get confused and it's going to wind up being a mess.
Yep.
Go through and write the truth. And then you go back and you make the modifications you need to make that book workable as a book that can help others, or that you can put your message out there of what you went through.
Yeah. Yeah. The other thing, I actually saw this from the movie that came out a while back. It was called Bombshell, about what happened at, gosh, now I forgot the news. Was it Fox News? And one of the characters inside that movie was actually a compilation of 3 different people. So it wasn't recognizable as any one person, but it was a compilation. And that's one way to combine some of those characters to make them a little bit more unrecognizable. And then one of my favorite memoirists is Augustine Burroughs. I don't know if people love him or hate him. I mean, it's like you're either one or the other. I love his writing. A lot of people say it was fictionalized or that wasn't true or whatever. I tend to believe, actually, because I've been in some crazy situations myself. But what he put at the beginning of his is, after a lawsuit, he said, these situations happened as I experienced them, right? So you can't argue with your own experience. So so you need to write your experiences and not, I guess you still worry about what other people would think, but if you write from your experiences, you can't sue from that because it's your experience as you went through it, right? Does that make sense?
Well, yeah, but the libel, the whole thing of libel and privacy, and the other side of that is called publicity.
Yeah.
Those 3 things are the big legal things you get into, but all of them are based on some really non-defined legal things. It's more based on case law, which means there's been precedent in the past set for that. Mm-hmm. And it's changing continuously. So we have to be careful there. And one of the things we look at when we look at a writer that's writing those kind of stories is we look at, do they need to be legally, it's called legal vetting, where an actual attorney that is familiar with publishing reads it and says, this is risk, this is not risk, you're okay here, change this, do that. They don't go through, but they're looking at it. And we can do a whole book, or we can do parts of a book where it's subject to that. But the one way to be sure of any of that is to have an actual legal attorney look at it.
That's a great idea.
We've done that for our authors. So when people work with us, we'll flag them and let them know that this is another level of the editing. It's a legal edit that they'll go through. Mm-hmm. And so there might be other courses that you want ways to handle it, but that's not to stop people. It's just being aware, right, and not putting yourself at undue risk.
But again, the most important thing is just getting it out first. Then you can all deal with that, massage the book, figure it out, get it.
Lots of process beyond the first draft.
Right. You got to get it out first. Don't edit in your head and don't stop.
You're never going to share. Put it in that rough draft because nobody's going to see it.
Right.
And if you go through and start editing, you've at least got that there. And that could be something that is influencing how you're writing the rest. That could be one of those context things that you need to develop the story, even though you're not going to share it. And we need to be conscious of what we share and ask ourselves, how does this really advance my goal in why I'm writing? Am I writing to heal me? Am I writing this to help somebody else? How's it going to advance that goal? And if it doesn't advance that goal, then we need to think about, do we really need that in there? You know, it may be a great story to tell. It may be a great history for me or for the family or, you know, those involved in me. But if that's not advancing my story, that's not really something I need to share.
Right.
You need to be conscious of, we don't have to share everything to do this.
Yeah. But get it out of your head, because then it will help. It does help heal you just to get it out and get it clear. And like you said, it might inform how you do the rest of the book, but just get it out.
Right,
So,
right.
might not make it to the end of the book.
New writers don't understand, most of them don't understand that once they have that manuscript written, that's not the end. They're going to go back through that thing several times and write and rewrite, and all writers do that.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
why these courses that write your book in a weekend are not, forget it, no, that's not going to work, because you've got to go back through and you go through again and again and again. And
Right.
you're editing, not just for grammar and paragraphs and all of the syntax and all that kind of stuff. You're editing for the content. You're getting it down in a format that it's easy to follow. You're looking at, how does this support what I'm trying to accomplish with my book?
Right.
And, you're going through and looking at it that way as you go back and read and reread and make changes to what you've written.
Now that leads me into my next question, which is, I'm looking forward to this. How do people feel after they've completed their book? And I'm looking forward to doing this with you guys, and I should have mine done. I don't know. I'm not going to put a date on it. Maybe by the end of this year or next year, maybe a year from now, I'll have it. But in any case, how do people feel after they've completed and they've gotten this out and it's edited and they've completed it?
They're more open to talk about it with others. It's out there now.
Yeah.
They're not hiding it. So they're more open to talk with it than others. And I have heard a lot of them say that that have been through some of the struggles. Now, we've had a couple that have gone through some struggles, but they're a little different. They're a little unique. But some of the childhood stuff, some of the abuse stuff, and some of that kind of stuff, they said now that they've done that, they're doing something they can't believe they would have ever done in their life, and that's helping other people go through those. Go through the process. Because they've written it, because they put it out there. Now they have the ability to go through and say, "Hey, I can help you walk through this path."
Right.
It changes from feeling like you're a victim in certain circumstances and situations to turning that around and being actually a teacher, a counselor, a helper to other people. It takes you out of that victim role.
Right.
The book is not meant to get revenge on whoever hurt you. We all experience different hurts at different levels.
Right.
But it is to move you to a whole new level and experience in your life to be able to actually live out your purpose. You usually go through these challenges for a reason. There's a reason this stuff happens. So we believe we're all called, we all have a purpose. And when you get out of that victim mentality and are able to start helping other people, you're living your calling, your purpose, and what you're supposed to do. And when you're at that level, everything changes. First of all, the relief you feel that it's done, but all of a sudden, just like Charles and I, people start coming to you as the expert, as the authority, as someone can help them. So the tables turn from being a victim to being able to help others.
We have
confidence, right?
We have one author that when he started, he didn't want his picture on the book. He didn't want to use his real name. He didn't want to speak or anything like that. He's got his first book done. He's working on his second. He's now up speaking. He didn't have any social media presence. And on one of our phone calls just recently after his first book was done, he says, "When are we going to talk some more about this social media stuff? And how do I get more likes on Facebook and that kind of thing?" So because he's done it now, he's more conscious of being able to share that with others. And before, he was just hiding it. And I think he wasn't writing because he was afraid to come out and say, "This is me. This is what I believe about this stuff."
Right. Oh, that confidence, that clarity, that joy, that relief, everything.
And when we see one of our authors get published, the explosion in Charles and I, because we've helped them and guided them along it, but their family and themselves, there's just incredible joy. And, we certainly help our folks market it and get the word out there. So all of a sudden, there's just this big celebration of their life.
Yeah.
There's one author, he's just a normal person like us, no great accomplishments, huge things he's done, or he's not a name brand or anything like that. But we saw him on a poster for an event he's speaking at, and there was 4 pictures at the bottom. One of them was Dr. So-and-so, the other one was Pastor so-and-so, the other was him, author.
Oh, wow.
And then another, I think it was another pastor. But that being an author gives you a recognition that you don't really realize until you get there, how people respond to it when you say, I'm a published author.
Mm.
I've been surprised since my book's been out several times. I'm still surprised sometimes at the reaction I get when I say, I'm an author. Because now you've done it, and it's just like, okay, I've done that.
Right.
But other people, it's still like, remember, 99% want to write a book and never get around to it.
Never do it. Right. Right. Oh, and the final question, tell me about what makes your program so unique, and where can people find it at? I love it because, well, I'll let you talk about that. What makes your program so unique? It's really amazing.
Well, we're not just about online courses. We're not just about how to self-publish your book on Amazon. We're not just about learning. We're about doing. We have programs where we're actually taking a vested interest in our authors and what we can do to help move them down the line. We look at it as a transformational process. From the time someone enters in our program to the time they get published, and even after that, because many authors want to stay and do another book and keep in the community.
Right.
We look at that as a transformational process. Charles and I have started and run over 3 different adult learning centers. So we really understand that process of people as newbies to being more accomplished and professional at what they do. And we've integrated all of that work that we've done, not only in the United States, but internationally, to work with our authors and consider their journey. So this isn't a course that you just go online and do yourself. We have a community of people, and I know you've been starting to experience our community.
I know, it's amazing, amazing.
Other authors who have very different experiences, but you know, writing a book is probably one of the loneliest endeavors in the world. But having the surrounding with other people that are in those processes, maybe before you or a little after you,
right?
Knowing that community is there creates an energy and keeps you going. So we have over, we do have learning, by the way. Charles has done over 60 videos, and there's tons of exercises and things that we do. We help with project management, making sure you're moving on a path and creating a path for yourself. We have coaching calls. We have events. In fact, we're having a regional event in Phoenix coming up. It might be before this is aired.
Yeah.
And we've done conferences. But the idea is the rising tide raises all boats. And so it's that surrounding of you by Charles and I being leaders and understanding the actual book development process and publishing, and me with the marketing and sales to get your word out there, and understanding that adult learning and that growth and transformational. That's what makes it different.
I love it because what I feel like, because I'm going through your program and working on the, what am I working on right now? The proposal. And you're standing shoulder to shoulder with me and the other authors in this program, right? We're all standing shoulder to shoulder, and you guys are standing with us, helping us go through this. Not like, hey, here's something you need to learn, and then you go off and do it on your own. You're standing shoulder to shoulder with us, walking us through this whole thing. And so I think that's invaluable. It really, really is.
And we love doing it.
Yeah, you guys are experts at that. All right, so where can people go to find out more about this program? Because you only open it at certain times, right? To go through cohorts?
Yeah, but we have some people who are coming in a little early and a little late to the times we sort of kick it off. But you just go to yourmessagecentral.com.
Your Message
In fact,
Central.
by the time this airs, there'll be actually a quiz on there where you can actually take like a free self-assessment type quiz about where you are on your journey from being an aspiring author to an accomplished author. Awesome. And you'll get some results on that and some training as well. So look for that, yourmessagecentral.com.
I love it. Charles, Elaine, thank you so much. I am so glad our paths crossed because this is something, it's a gap. It's a gap that you guys are filling in the publishing industry, and people are out there trying to do self-publishing, but that's not it. And people trying to do, traditional publishing, and that's, not for everybody. And what you guys are doing is helping us make ourselves better, make our books better, and just get the books out there in the world so they can help other people. Thank you so much for doing that.
Well, thank you.
Well, thank you, Stacy.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for listening.
Thank you,
Resilience this week. Awesome. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye. My name is Stacy Brookman. Women leverage me to unleash their stories and discover their hard-won wisdom so they can command their personal power and emerge resilient and joyful. Because so many are trapped in a cycle of crazy, depleted emotionally, and live with the scars of emotional abuse and low self-esteem. I help them gain clarity from their life lessons, lean on their hard-won wisdom, and have power to feel confident in themselves again. Will you join me? Click here to do so.